Yep.
You're listening to Well Met, a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com.
Well met.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 35 of Well Met. We are a Hearthstone podcast brought to you by BlizzPro.com, and we are coming off of a 2-week hiatus to bring you this wonderful episode. We missed you guys, but we were at BlizzCon. As always, I'm John. I push the buttons every week, and I've got a rock star crew with me. First, all the way from Saskatoon, Canada, it is the one, the only, Kevin Hovdestad. Hey, Kev.
How's it going, John?
Woot!
It was crazy. BlizzCon was such a ride. I'm happy to be home. Nice to sleep in my own bed and everything. But BlizzCon is the highlight of my year, and I'm super excited to talk about the show and all the cool new stuff that's coming to Hearthstone too.
Totally. Also, from sunny Kansas City, we've got the other man, the other myth, the other legend. It is J.R. Cook. Hey, J.R.
Hey, John. I'm glad to be here. I mean, I missed the last few weeks, man. So it's good to kind of be back in the saddle again.
It was kind of peaceful.
Ooh.
I was too busy partying and winning world championships with my team.
Oh, when you mean that you won the world championship, you mean you sat on your butt for 3 hours, ate popcorn, and watch your team win. Okay.
Yeah,
we have a more important.
I drank beer and I clapped my hands, and they won. And
we have a way more important world championship to talk about. Come on now, let's not get sidetracked.
That's true. We had to give the people they want their last bit of baseball before February, and then
I probably won't.
JR will be back in.
That's it. We only get like a 3-month break from this.
I mean,
crap?
Spring training. Yeah, it's not a long break at all. It is awful.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in the world of Hearthstone. Do we even want to chat about what we did on the ladder? Did you guys do anything amazing on the ladder that you want to talk about?
You know, I would like to talk about BlizzCon at least.
Well, I mean, we're going to go there.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about the news at BlizzCon. I want to talk about
BlizzCon, yeah.
BlizzCon.
All right, let's talk about it. We'll skip. Let's just talk about it. Go.
All right, so I don't know about you guys, but I was busy as heck, and I didn't expect a very good BlizzCon. I expected kind of a kind of lowered down BlizzCon because I knew we wouldn't have a big game announcement or anything like that. So I didn't think I was going to be as busy as I was, but that was a mistake. There's a lot from other games. I didn't feel like there was much from Hearthstone other than we're all playing a new adventure mode, so we'll talk about that here pretty soon.
Spoiler!
Yeah, I know.
People may not have known that, JR.
I know, but now they'll know again here in like 5 minutes. But I just want to say, though, like, the biggest thing about BlizzCon this year was not only getting to hang out with you two guys. Like, the first time I met John, I met Kevin a couple times, and that was nothing special. But
wow.
But meeting John was pretty cool, So
yes,
I have to give Kevin crap because he wouldn't hang out with us.
He did. He ditched hard.
Yeah, he ditched us hard.
You guys.
So, but no, the Con Before the Storm stuff. Like, how many people came out and like came over and talked to us and stuff? That was really cool, and that's something I've never experienced before. And anybody that came over that day and came over and talked to us got some of the swag that we had there. Thank you so much, because that made my entire convention experience.
Yeah, it was really
pretty cool.
You go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, I really enjoyed it. Like, I feel like I worked a lot more this year. I had a lot more places I had to be, but between a group of people I knew rented a house this year, so we had somewhere to crash as a group, which was really nice. Made a really awesome place to have people out and just socialize outside the convention. But yeah, I mean, Con Before the Storm, John and I went up to the Wowhead party, had a chance to hang out with Brian Kibler and Firebat and a few other people up there. Like, it just super awesome opportunities on the whole. And yeah, I was so thankful to Lance and some of the other guys who came and found our little booth up in the Hilton and wanted to come and get, you know, the little buttons that my sister made up, which PS, like, that was awesome to have all that stuff there. We had buttons and shirts and postcards. We were signing signatures. I got asked for my autograph. Like, legitimately, people walked up and were like, hey, you do cool things. Can you sign this thing? And I was like, yeah, I can totally do that. It was really neat. I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I have to tell a story about Con Before the Storm. I told this on the payload, but I think our Hearthstone audience needs to hear this because this is hilarious. So at the Con Before the Storm, there was a lot of really well-known Hearthstone personalities and other games, WoW, Diablo, kind of everything, a smattering of a lot of personalities. And at our table, and they scheduled people out in half or hour-long kind of increments to have this table. And so the hour before us, the table, we had Towley at our table. Yeah. And so it's coming up right on our time, like 8 o'clock, like 8:01. We're kind of like standing in the corner really awkwardly. We're like, this is Towley. Like, he has more viewers at any given time than we have downloads in a month. And that's not true, but you get the idea. And so we're like kind of standing there, and then JR walks past us, walks over to Towley and goes, hey man, this is our table. You got to move. And Towley does like a double take. Like, what? He's like, oh, and he immediately was like really cool about it. And then when he left, about half the room left, and then we got to hang out at our table. But it was that was the first time I saw like just like no craps giving JR kind of thing, and just kicks out Towley off of the table.
I mean,
it was
the way
awesome.
I see it, he's a guy that streams video games, and other people watch him stream video games. Why do I care? I mean,
I just thought it was so funny.
I mean, yeah, people know him and whatever, but I'm not gonna, it was our table at that time. I was nice about it. I wasn't that bad. I'm like, hey, Towley, I introduced myself and everything, and then I'm like, we're scheduled next, so if you want any help cleaning up or anything, let us know.
That's not.
If you need any help taking your shit and leaving.
All right, I got to make sure I hit the bleep button on that one. But and the thing is, I would have just gone up and been like, hey, Towley, can I have a picture? And then I will sit behind you so that people see us when they come in to see you. Because
I just
that's
don't
why I like it.
Man. I just don't care. They're people just like me.
I enjoyed the fact that John sat down and immediately was like, man, everybody just left, and now all we get to do is look at people's butts all night.
You guys had great butts, by the way. Those of you guys hanging out. You guys had awesome butts.
Yeah, phenomenal. Top
shot. Yeah, and huge thanks to Katie. Katie.
Oh my God, that was so funny.
Freaking hilarious. So we had a couple of drinks before Con Before the Storm, and I was good, but I think Katie was on like her third or fourth, and she was going around Con Before the Storm just kind of handing out buttons. She's just kind of being like our little cheerleader, and it was really adorable. She had another drink, and all of a sudden, instead of just giving them and having conversation, she started trying to make it into a game where she was trying to like sneak buttons and postcards into people's bags and pockets without them knowing. And like people were like, what? And I saw one guy catch her, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were the wrong person, and like walks away. And it was so freaking funny.
Oh, love it.
Oh man.
But John, so Kevin and I have been to several BlizzCons. This was your first. I mean,
yes.
Honestly,
that
what
is a
did
truth
you
fact.
think? What did you honestly think about BlizzCon as a
So
whole?
I came in with very high expectations of what this experience was going to look like, and I was not disappointed in the slightest. It was awesome through and through. Thursday night, we were at the Wowhead party, which was insane. Friday night, I was hanging out with Tannen Grace, Orange, Nadia, and Backspace. We hung out for like 2 hours just down in the Hilton lobby chatting. And it was like just super fun to kind of do that. And then we we snuck into the VIP part of the Twitch party at the bowling alley, and that was really fun. We hung out with Orange some more, and then poor Nyria and Tice were just kind of like, I think, overwhelmed by the whole social experience, and we were really nice to them. So like they sat at our table with us for probably about half an hour to 45 minutes because it was like everyone was just like talking and chatting the whole time, and Katie and I were just people watching. So that was really fun. And then that was just outside of the convention. Then in the convention, I mean, you had awesome Hearthstone being played. We got to get our hands on all the new stuff and all the new games. But I don't know if this is blasphemous or to stay or not, or to say. I really enjoyed the con part of BlizzCon, and I enjoyed it. And I will, always love that, and like it was awesome. But my favorite parts were actually afterward, where we were hanging out.
That's everybody.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, you'll hear that from anybody who goes. I've been saying it for years. Like my first one, I didn't know anybody who was going, and it was just me and my sister, and we just kind of took in the show, and it was fun. But we were in and out of Anaheim in 3 days. Like it was just whatever. Whereas the last 3 times that I've gone, it's like I plan a week and I book most of my time around what I'm going to do outside the convention, who I'm going to see, what dinners I've got planned, what's going on after hours. The show's a lot of fun, but it's really the experience of getting to hang out with all the people who are there because they love the same things you do. It's the only time of year where the stuff that I can geek out about every day. I mean, I literally write about Blizzard games for a living, and I can walk around down there and strike a conversation up with anyone because you immediately have something in common from like ground zero, which is really cool. And I would be remiss if I didn't agree with you. Like, yeah, it's the best part of it is getting to see all of your friends and hang out with those people.
The only thing is that next year we need to promise each other that we will hang out at least one night and like hang out as a crew, because we like hung out at Con Before the Storm. And I don't know if I saw you at the Wowhead party.
Yeah,
and
we got to
besides
hang out
that,
for a little bit.
I didn't really get to see any of you guys after that. So deal.
Deal.
Well, I hung out with all the BlizzPro people that was around. For the most part, like BlizzCon for me is I get to see maybe 2 or 3 hours total of the show floor. The rest of the time I'm busy, especially when you have like 4 or 5 different developer interviews for 4 or 5 different games. And I'm in charge of getting all of that set up and getting the questions together and everything. That I'm usually up in the press room. So for me, BlizzCon is just work. And then afterwards is when I get to kind of unwind. But yeah, I think we were over at the Hilton every once in a while, but I didn't get to see you guys afterwards. I think I saw you guys before, but not during or after.
Yeah, I took a bunch of people over to the house I mentioned earlier. We all hung out there. People came by, and that was in some ways better because I love doing the Hilton thing and like hanging out with everybody. But having gotten to be at the staff mixer and chill with everybody for a bit there, I got my FaceTime with the people who I wanted to see from the dev team who I wouldn't see otherwise. And then the people who I wanted to see outside of that, I just said, hey, come join us at the house. We'll hang out there. We got drinks and snacks, and it was great. It's a phenomenal way to do it. We actually have a house booked for next year already. We booked
nice.
We booked it on the way out. Like as people were leaving on the Sunday, I got the text that said like, yeah, everything's booked for next year already.
Nice. That seemed like a smart way to do it. I might have to ask you more about that. All right. Let's, JR, it looks like you had a couple things you wanted to chat about here before we jump into the news.
I was just going to briefly talk about, like, yesterday we had our sponsored Fireside Gathering here in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
BlizzPro and Well Met podcast sponsored. I just wanted to apologize for anybody that went to that I wasn't able to go. Was a little sick after BlizzCon. And wasn't able to make it, but I heard that you guys had a really fun time. There's a lot of people that showed up, and hopefully we'll be doing more of them here pretty soon. But we gave away like tons and tons of card packs and prizes and things like that. So hopefully I'll get pictures of the event here pretty soon from Captain Crunch, who was the one that put it on and kind of ran the whole thing. But hopefully I'll keep you guys informed if we do any more here in the near future. Probably, I'm guessing after the holidays, we'll probably be doing some more.
Cool. let's jump into the news.
This week in Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft.
So we do have quite a bit of news to go through, believe it or not. I know you guys think it's been really slow for Hearthstone, but you are completely and utterly wrong. So, first and foremost, obviously, new expansion, or actually a new adventure announced. The League of Explorers. We're going to go deep into it later in the show, but just know what happens, so you do want to stay through for the rest of the show. World Championships, Hearthstone. We need to talk about this because, well, this is the biggest tournament of the year. So, let's go ahead and talk about it. I sat in for probably 80% of the Hearthstone tournament. I didn't go around to all the booths during all that time. I was actually there. Did you guys get to see a lot of the Hearthstone tournament?
Honestly, no. I tried to run over and catch literally just the grand final because every other part of the entirety of the convention I was working or busy at another event. It was there were a lot of good games. I went and I actually watched a bunch of it as a replay Friday night. Like, we ran it at the TV at the house so people could watch and see what they had missed for games. It was good. Like, I think there were some really great games played. I was really excited about the variety of decks that were brought. I don't know what else there is to say. Ostkaka played phenomenally. He had all of the things we talked about as far as like anti-meta decks going in. Are you surprised he beat Tice?
I actually am not. And we kind of talked about this, Kev, when you and I had kind of our thing back and forth. We were like a toss up as to who would win between those two. And I don't think either of us could have been surprised by that. I was surprised that Ostkaka beat down Pinpingho so
authoritatively.
Just boom, laid down the hammer. I did not expect that, but I think other than that, we were pretty spot on for just about everything going through.
Yeah, I mean, my call going in was whichever one of those two, like assuming they both advanced, whoever won that matchup was going to win, because just looking at straight up deck lists, like you went through and you said, as long as these guys play to the strengths of the matchups they have available to them, they played anti-meta and they won because of it, right? When in doubt, beat them, don't join them.
Yeah, and
I like that.
Even during our panel at Con Before the Storm with Golden Wisp, I think every single one of us had said it was going to be Tice or Ostkaka.
Yep.
I don't think anybody derailed from that and said whoever's going to win that match is going to go on to win the full thing, and that's what happened.
Yeah, if you're going to go back, if you didn't get to see it and you kind of want to get an essence of how intense that series was, in my opinion, my favorite series I watched all year. You should watch the whole thing. But at one point, there's a freeze mage mirror. I think it was game 4, where they're both playing their freeze mages, and Tice has them on the ropes. They're going into fatigue, and he sets up a play where basically Ostkaka has his ice block up, and so basically he was going to kill him in fatigue and bypass the ice block by getting him down to 1 health and not popping the block, and then when it goes to Ostkaka's turn, he was going to kill him. Ostkaka realized that and pinged his own face. Like, that was the kind of awareness that we were seeing throughout the whole series between those two. So you need to watch that match. I know normally Freeze Mage versus Freeze Mage sucks to watch, but this is actually a really interesting and really intense matchup. So you should definitely go back. And a huge congratulations to Ostkaka from Team Navi. Yep, cool. We'll leave that where it lies. Last thing to we kind of got 2 smaller things to talk about here. Elke, from former StarCraft Pro, then Poker Pro, joins Team Liquid. So he's making a jump into the Hearthstone scene. He actually did a show match with another poker player, and sorry, I'm not huge in the poker scene, so I totally forgot who it was against. But they did a little show match, and it's really cool. So we got poker players. He's got over $10 million in lifetime winnings as a poker player, so he's a really well-known poker player coming into the Hearthstone team, into one of the most well-respected organizations in Hearthstone. Pretty exciting. What do you guys think?
I mean, I guess I'm just curious, like, why, if he's that successful in poker, what the draw of Hearthstone would be. Obviously, we love it; it's a lot of fun, and I think the guys who have gone pro in Hearthstone or play at that level have a ton of cool backstories. You know, everything from Kibler is a game designer, right down to who's your favorite, John? That kid who broke out and did super well. He's like 14.
Amnesiac.
Amnesiac, yeah. There's all these people and a whole spread in between, right? So to see people who like you're not making $11 million playing Hearthstone, at least not yet, right? So it does strike me as odd that way. But on the other hand, Elke, like super well known. I'm sure he's got a phenomenal contract out of Liquid because that's great in terms of what it's going to do for them and like as a presentation thing and a marketing opportunity for Liquid.
Well, something to think about though too is Life Coach was a former poker pro, and he's like retired and has all of his nice cards, and maybe he's just looking for a new challenge, some fun, make some money on the side, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it's obviously not about money. The guy's made $11 million in poker. He's not going to see that kind of money in Hearthstone. He's going to do it because he loves to do it, and this is what he wants to do, and I don't see any problem with that at all.
I suppose if I had $11 million, I would be a professional Hearthstone player too, because I could be a professional whatever I wanted with $11 million.
Yeah, you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
and if that's what you enjoy, then more power to you.
Fair enough.
All right, guys. We're going to go ahead and do our BlizzCon exclusive meta report here before we jump into League of Explorers.
Beat 'em or join 'em.
Oh, no.
Woot! All right, so we're in it. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the meta stuff going on this week. Jer, you want to take us away?
Yeah, so I believe Tempo Storm was the only one that released a meta report this week. It's very similar to what we have seen in the past. Keep in mind, this is before League of Explorers came out, so you're not going to see some of these new, not really new decks, but some of these decks with like mainly Reno Jackson in there. But of course, Secret Paladins, number 1, mid-range Paladins, number 2, Aggro Druids, number 3. That's been pretty much the case for Tier 1 decks for the last couple weeks. However, Freeze Mage, because of the World Championship, is now, they now say that is a Tier 1 deck, which I would agree, because Freeze Mage does good against all of these decks, and that's I'd have to agree with that.
We saw the same thing during ATLC when we saw Freeze Mage in almost every matchup. At least one point, it was one of the decks at least one of the teams brought in almost every matchup. And I don't know, like I guess it's good, and you're right. The matchups are pretty solid against the meta right now, and that makes sense why Ostkaka and Tice brought Freeze Mage to the World Championships. But I feel like that really hasn't changed. It still would have been that good this entire time because the meta hasn't changed since ATLC, really. So yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's. I think I would still put it at top of tier 2, just because I think of the skill level it takes to play. But you're right. A good player, just like Oil Rogue, is going to make that a tier 1 deck.
If you want to use skill allowed to play, then Patron Warrior shouldn't have been top of tier 1 for as long as it was, because that took a lot of skill to play too.
So. That's true. The thing about Freeze Mage, the reason it's so popular, and I know we talked this to death, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but its success was predicated on the fact that it was super good in the Conquest format. You knew going in, if you were playing Freeze Mage, that unless you truly botched it, you were going to win a Freeze Mage matchup because there were only 2 classes that could counter it. So it did really well in the tournament scene. I don't know that makes it a good ladder deck. There's so many things that are designed to counter it, and people are teching hyper hard against secrets right now because the ladder is just flooded with Secret Paladin, Freeze Mage, even you're seeing Hunter make a comeback, and I guarantee you it's like you're gonna see Kezan Mystics, Flares, all of the anti-secret tech is coming back in a big way. I don't know. I mean, I don't think this meta is actually long for the world. I think you're gonna see a lot of stuff change right away here, because there are decks out there right now that beat pretty much all of these top tier decks, and the fact that they exist means there's definitely stuff coming that's going to change things up.
Yeah, and I was talking about that Fireside Gathering earlier, and the way that they did the tournament for that was Conquest format, but you brought 4 decks and you were able to ban 1. And I would have brought Freeze Mage, I would have brought Mid-Range Druid, I would have brought probably a Mid-Range Hunter or a Hybrid Hunter, and then I would have brought probably like a Control Warrior or something like that. Control Warrior is tier 2. Mid-range Druid, which I feel is also should be a tier 1, is at the top of tier 2. I would have brought all those with Freeze Mage, and then I would have just banned Mage every single game that I had, just because I feel that the other 3 decks would do good against anything out there, except for Freeze Mage. Freeze Mage would just destroy them all, except for Control Warrior, I guess. Control Warrior and Freeze Mage is kind of a weird matchup, but that's what I would have done. So I think Freeze Mage completely, and I see it a lot on the ladder right now. I think it completely is a tier 1 deck.
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
It's just its relevance is overstated because it is so easy to counter, right? Once it's prevalent in terms of number of people playing it, the meta will shift crazy fast. I mean, already I guarantee you, unless the next batch of League of Explorers cards shifts it up, and I know we're going to talk about that in a second, you're going to see like the modified Control Warrior that runs patrons instead of taunts. You're going to see probably like Mid-Range Hunter teched against secrets. You're going to see, I would guess, even stuff like Control Priest has a real good opportunity to really counter pretty much everything in that tier 1 list. And that means there's going to be a shift. We just haven't seen it yet. A large part of that, I think, being that people like to play decks that are fun or that have the really like, I can win by turn 6 feel to them, like Tempo Mage. And I'm seeing a ton of that on the ladder. Like, I haven't played a lot since I got home, but in the like 15, 20 games I've seen, yeah, it's Mage Central on ladder right now.
Yeah, and I think next week you're going to see Control Warrior kind of rise up in the ranks a little bit. I think you're going to see that Control Warrior, like you said, Control Warrior Patron type combo that's kind of out right now, and then add in the whole Reno Jackson thing with it. I'm seeing that a lot, and a lot of people playing that. I'm also seeing a lot of people play a combo like Freeze Mage with Reno Jackson as well. We'll talk about that card a little bit later, but I think that one card is going to change the meta a little bit as well, and we're going to see more control-oriented decks here in the future rather than these hyper-aggro decks that we're seeing at the top of the ladder.
It's the natural turn of the clock, right?
Yep.
Control beats aggro, and when control is dominant, you'll see mid-range come back, and we just round and round she goes.
Right. I think, too, something, if you guys want to look at something that's going to do really well against like those combo and aggro druids and Secret Paladin, mid-range Paladin, and because, JR's calling it, Control Warrior probably making a comeback this week, take a look at like a Zoo Warlock, because that actually does really well against all those decks. The ones that you're really going to run into trouble with is just like Patron Warrior, and I don't think we are going to see that much of it on ladder. I think it's a great tournament deck because it's a really high skill cap, especially without Warsong Commander. So, yeah, something to take a look at.
The Patron Warrior deck that you're talking about doesn't actually have a very high percentage win rate either. In tournaments, it does very well because you have a very limited set, whereas ladder, you're not going to have that limited set, so it doesn't do as well.
Yeah, you don't get to control the field quite as well.
Cool. Any last thoughts here on the meta, boys?
Nope, I want to explore.
All right,
I want to discover.
Let's go ahead and talk about the League of Explorers.
Wow, I can't believe that worked.
Yes. All right, League of Explorers time. Let's go ahead and break it down for everyone. Kev, you want to give us kind of the skinny on the League of Explorers?
Absolutely. So this is a continuation of kind of the thematic thing that Blizzard's been doing in recent memory with the content in Hearthstone, which is taking content that occurred during some portion of World of Warcraft and kind of evolving on it a little bit, giving it its own slightly altered angle as to what story they're telling. So the League of Explorers in Hearthstone is basically thematically copied from the Explorers League in World of Warcraft. The Explorers League was a faction that you could meet up with starting in Wrath of the Lich King that basically was focused on archaeology and other ways of discovering the ancestry and really the genesis of the history of the dwarven race. Where did they come from? How did they come to be? And there's a lot of cool lore and stuff that goes with that, which actually, interestingly enough, this whole like staff of origination thing that appears in the League of Explorers in Hearthstone is more or less taken one-to-one out of some of the old school World of Warcraft dungeons and content that existed way back when in the earliest parts of the game. So I think super cool. We talked a lot about this with Grand Tournament and how nice it was that Hearthstone kind of got its own story, not just, here's Naxxramas picked up, moved over, and dropped into our game. And I really love it for that. Plus, it has like the right kind of character for me because there is like a good story occurring here. Nax was just a dungeon. Blackrock Mountain was just a dungeon. Goblins vs. Gnomes was kind of like cheeky and kitschy and neat. And Grand Tournament started down this path, but really felt kind of like it didn't matter. The story was, it's a place where people are going to go and they're going to do battle because it was set up to do that at some point in the past. League of Explorers is really like, we're off on this quest. We've got these new characters that you haven't seen before doing all this cool stuff. And I dig it. I dig the conceptual way that they've brought it all together and given it its own kind of unique feel.
Yeah, they kind of did this a little bit with the Grand Tournament where they introduced some new characters that were specific to Hearthstone and weren't necessarily in World of Warcraft. And they kind of doubled down a little bit with the League of Explorers and did the same thing. That's why you get like Reno Jackson and Elise Starseeker, and I think that's her name, right? I could be wrong on that. And then the Murloc, who I can't remember, Sir Murgleton or whatever his name is.
Remarkable.
Yeah,
Got that one for you. You're welcome.
that guy.
Love it.
So, it's pretty cool that they're kind of writing their own lore at this point. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that going forward, where they can kind of give this lighthearted feel to the World of Warcraft without just copying what World of Warcraft did. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to see Icecrown Citadel, I want to see Karazhan, and they can still go down that path. But I think it's cool that they're exploring and going their own route, their own characters that they kind of bring up and things like that. I think it gives Hearthstone a little bit more of a fun feel to it, that we're going to see new stuff, new characters come out of it. I think from at least a lore standpoint for Warcraft, I think it's pretty cool.
And something, too, that I think to notice is there's no doubt that with each adventure, like Blizzard is getting much better at, kind of making the adventures fun and interesting. Like Next was cool, but it was basically a carbon copy of the raid in so many different ways. Blackrock Mountain took some freedoms in there and it was a little bit more fun. You still saw the nods to the, encounters and stuff like that, but at the same time, it wasn't like just a blatant carbon copy of everything. And then now with League of Explorers, at least the first wing was really fun, really, kind of interesting, introduced some new, mechanics and things that they haven't done before, and some really cool things that I hope we see, come back in like a tavern brawl format.
Agreed. I think the Temple Escape was a good indication of that, on something that was new and unique and just a lot of fun. Because you're playing through basically a scenario of something that's going to happen, and every turn was, what's coming though, but it's a nice little puzzle thing of, okay, you're escaping the temple, and it's cool how the story is progressing. Like next wing, we're going to mess with, I can't remember his name now, Brand Bronzebeard. And going through Oldemon.
Did you almost say Ron Burgundy?
No.
Because it very much sounded like you were about to say Ron Burgundy.
No.
All right.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, I totally agree. And I think it's cool. We did talk way back when on the earliest parts of the show about how we kind of like the notion that maybe down the road we might get to see adventure mode used as kind of a puzzle format. And that adds something to the game for people who don't necessarily want to play ranked play or arena. It's something that's all new, and they kind of solved for that a little bit with Tavern Brawl, but I feel like this is a nice touch. Before we get sunk into mechanics and details. 2 questions for you guys. Number 1, are you surprised that there were no other announcements at BlizzCon other than League of Explorers? 2, are you surprised that they've basically openly said that they have no intent of changing the price point on the old adventure modes and that they're just going to keep adding to the game up to this point?
I'm going to answer I'll answer both of them, but I'm just going to start with number 1. I was surprised very much so that there was no other announcements other than this adventure mode, and I was disappointed that there wasn't any either. I really wanted to hear what the future of Hearthstone was going to bring in the next year, and all we got, we got an adventure mode and we're playing it right now, and that's really cool, but what's next? I don't know. They didn't say. We know that more deck slots are coming. We know that, and that's it. And I don't know if that's a good thing for the game right now, especially once this adventure mode is over and people don't know what's coming next. There's already a lot of, kind of people not happy with where the game's going right now. That I think it can cause a lot of strife going forward, and I feel like they should have addressed some things and at least talked about what the future of Hearthstone was going to bring. Because I feel like they've done that the last couple BlizzCons, what the future of Hearthstone is going to look like. Like last year, we got spectator mode. We kind of got to look at it and, kind of moving forward and what we're going to see. But maybe we'll just get that stuff dumped on us whenever we're not expecting it. Maybe that's going to be the case, like Tavern Brawls. Going on to number 2, as far as like, they did say that I at least I think in my interview and other interviews, they've said that they are talking a lot about new players coming into the game and how they're going to account for that, because it's going to get tougher and tougher and tougher for new players to get in. So I think once they get that figured out, then they'll discuss on possibly adventure modes maybe being cheaper or something like that down the line. I just don't think they were ready to talk about it right now. So no, I'm not surprised that they didn't, but I would have liked to have heard, one way or the other. But I just don't think they have it straightened out yet.
For sure. John, your thoughts?
All right, so first question, no, not surprised in the slightest, because I don't think they need to. I think the current state of the game is actually quite healthy, despite what you are reading on Reddit every day. Yes, it is a little bit stale. Yes, there are a lot of things that, aren't perfect yet, but I think, from a developer standpoint, I think Blizzard looks at it and go, Hearthstone is really successful right now. We aren't having to make these big. We're not having to do a Legion trailer before BlizzCon to keep a game afloat. And I think, that's just intentional on them. I think we are going to see huge things in 2016 for Hearthstone, but I just don't think that they needed to announce it at BlizzCon. I wanted to see tournament mode, but I think we're also seeing tournament organizers get a lot better at, kind of hosting those tournaments and streaming them, that maybe it's not as huge of a deal anymore, at least from that esport values. Then you're just talking local tournaments and stuff like that. And then, there's a lot of ideas about how that would be great, but I don't really know how important that is to Blizzard. And then the other thing that, I've heard a lot of people say is they want like this big balance patch, like something that just like recreates, basically like do a mass card change and mix stuff up so that they're better. And I was like, that's dumb. That's not going to happen. Sure, there are some cards right now that aren't fun to play against, but I don't know if that warrants a huge balance patch. So number one,
we're never ever going to see a balance patch in this game. If you think we're going to, it's never going to happen. The developers feel this game is too much like. I mean, these guys grew up on Magic the Gathering, and they're treating the game like Magic the Gathering, where it's a. I mean, they've said it many times in their interviews that, to them, this is like a physical card game, not digital. So even though it is a digital format, they're going to treat it like a physical card game. So it's just not going to happen, guys.
So for that, number one, no, not surprised in the slightest. Number 2, though, I think is an interesting one. Personally, the more I think about it, I think if they're going to start discounting things, I think they're going to start discounting card backs first. Like imagine a sale on GVG packs a weekend where, you know, you can save 20% in the Hearthstone store when buying GVG packs this weekend or something like that. I think for making the barrier entry cheaper, they're going to do it for those big expansions that have hundreds and hundreds of cards, because with adventure modes, what you see is what you get. Like, you know, you're getting Sludge Belcher when you do Nax, and honestly, that's probably a $20 card right there with how many different different decks and things that you're seeing it in. I'd love to see adventures cheaper, but I honestly think that discounting packs, in my solution, or in my opinion, is the better long-term solution than discounting adventures.
That's fair. I mean, okay, so the reason I raise these things is twofold, right? One, Legacy of the Void launched this week with automated tournaments built in, and I took the time to test them this week. I'm working on some articles related, so I played through one, and it was awesome. Like, the whole experience was super smooth, ran really elegantly. It was neat to, like, play against a guy and lose and get thrown into a decider elimination match and then win and come back and get to play him again later. And, like, there's a really cool, unique experience there that I don't think wouldn't work in Hearthstone. Like, I honestly look at what they've done and say, okay, I mean, conceptually, it starts at a fixed time. You push a little button, you get a little notification that says your tournament starts in 20 minutes. It was very smooth and very enjoyable. I would love to see it ported over. On the pricing model thing, this is now the third full adventure in the game.
Yep.
And they each cost between $20 and $25. That's a huge commitment. Like, if you want all three of these adventures just to enjoy the single player content, never mind the card collection, you're talking about $70, $75 now. It's a huge, like, mammoth investment to get started enjoying this content. And I don't understand it anymore. Like, that's that's more expensive than going out and buying the brand new Origins edition of Overwatch with all of the benefits and bonuses that come with that. That's a huge price commitment for content in a game that's quote unquote free to play. I mean, maybe there's a person out there who has managed to keep up with the game in a free to play fashion, but that person is playing an hour of Hearthstone a day every day since the last beta wipe back in mid 2013.
Yeah. And automated tournaments, like when I saw that in StarCraft, I so want to see that in Hearthstone right now.
It's so good.
Just for the fact that, like, playing Hearthstone on ladder and playing it in a tournament setting are two completely different things. Because if they did automated tournaments and they did it in, like, Conquest format or something like that, where they can control it, then you're able to bring in the decks that you want to play in a, you know what you're going to play against, you know what you can expect and things like that. And it's not just the crapshoot that ladder is, where you're going to play the most efficient deck that you can play, which tends to end up being usually aggro-based, or, if you're trying to fight against the meta, trying to go control-based or something like that. I feel like tournament mode would be a completely different style of playing Hearthstone. And you see that when you play in tournaments or when you watch tournaments, you're bringing completely different decks and you're playing in a completely different way. And I really want to see that in the game, because that's how I like to play. I don't like going through the grind of laddering. I would rather just play tournaments all day.
Cool.
Totally.
I totally agree. Anything we want to touch on those things, or should we start going into last few minute details and then into reviewing some of these cards?
Let's get into it.
All right, let's do it. So we're going to blaze through these things. So some details about the expansion. Number one, we do have a new mechanic called Discover. We've got a couple Discover cards that we're going to be going through in the card review. We're going to explain more there. Second, there are 4 different wings, 13 bosses. There's a normal and heroic mode and 9 class challenges. So pretty standard across the board there. There are 2 new card backs, one for purchasing the adventure and one for defeating heroic. And must I say, that heroic card back is insanely beautiful. Maybe my favorite collectible card back that we've seen to date that doesn't come from like TESPA or BlizzCon or China.
And didn't require a pre-order, which is also super nice because it means that everybody can get both very easily. I mean, presuming that you can beat the encounters on Heroic, there's good guides out there for that stuff. But yeah,
Totally. As far as pricing goes, only $19.99 for all 4 wings, or 700 gold per wing, as that's always been. You can buy them individually or buy as a subset. Basically, the more wings you buy at once, the cheaper each wing is. I don't need to explain through all the specifics for that. As far as cards go, if you purchase the expansion with either gold or real money, you do get 2 cards, the Explorer's Hat and the Forgotten Torch. I did not throw these up on stream, but we probably should talk about them anyway. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Explorer's Hat. Explorer's Hat is a 2-mana hunter spell called, it's rare. It says, give a minion +1/+1 and Death Rattle. Add an Explorer's Hat to your hand. What do you guys think about this card? JR?
I think it's a pretty fun card. I haven't had a chance to actually play with it yet because I haven't played Hunter since the set came out. But I have seen people trying to get this to work, and it looks like a blast just to sit there and hat everything that you've got and give it that +1/+1 to it. I'm seeing a lot of people using Death Rattle decks and things like that, which it's pretty cool.
What do you think, Kev?
Conceptually, I dig it because I've always really liked the notion of the Death Rattle driven Feign Death style of Hunter. As like a mid-rangey play, you can get tons of great value off of a ton of really powerful Death Rattle minions in Hunter and from some of the really good neutrals. So, I mean, I don't know that it's actually phenomenally good because you're not, as a general rule, worried about rebuffing minions in Hunter. You like, if your board gets wiped, it doesn't help you. It's the wrong type of Death Rattle in some ways for what Hunter's trying to accomplish, but it's cool. And I'll take cool as a, like, okay, somebody might make it work in a fun deck or a thematic deck, and that's good enough for it to be a playable card in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this from a competitive standpoint, 1/1 for 2 mana isn't super great.
Atrocious.
Hearthstone or Hunter decks right now currently don't have an issue with reach, so it's kind of like meh. And usually, all the new Hunters deck, all the current competitive Hunter decks are about filling out your curve with minions, and so this doesn't help much with that. So it's a little anti to what we're seeing currently. At the same time, like there's some cool synergies, you know, Kevin, to your point, you know, with lock and load and other type of things too. You might see some cool stuff happen. But yeah, I think we're right. Just kind of meh. Let's talk about this next one then. The Forgotten Torch. It's a 3-mana mage spell. It says, deal 3 damage, shuffle a Roaring Torch into your deck that deals 6 damage. And I don't have this off the top of my head. Do you guys know what the Roaring Torch costs mana-wise? Isn't it 3 mana again?
3.
So basically, it gives you a...
Discount
you have a 3 mana Frostbolt without the freezing. That also will feed you a 3 mana Fireball. So you're doing the same damage for the same amount of mana, I guess. Just spread out 3 versus 3. Let's talk about this card really quick.
I think it's a cool card conceptually as well. I'm not sure if we'll see it a lot in mage decks because I would just run 2 fireballs anyway. Yeah, you get a little bit you get a little bit cheaper of a fireball later by playing 3 damage earlier, but I wouldn't replace it with a more expensive Frostbolt or anything like that. I don't know. It's a cool card to see. I'd probably pick it in Arena, but I probably wouldn't play it in Constructed.
Cool.
It's a good concept, and I mean, you're seeing this a lot in this set between these cards. I mean, both Explorer's Hat, Forgotten Torch, and basically the Discover mechanic in general, and we're going to get into that in a second. They're all about making your deck a little thicker, making the game last a little longer. It adds staying power. And so I get the impression that Blizzard really wants to push for games that aren't decided by turn 6. They're trying to get people more options for decks that don't try to close out the game in that mech mage, mech shaman, face hunter style where the game's over by turn 7, win or lose. Because there's already enough cards for those types of decks. So the flip side is you got to give some new options to people who want the game to run longer, and cards that are self-replacing are a really great way to do that. So
cool. Unnerf head crack.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our real cards that I'm prepared to talk about. So, first, the Jeweled Scarab. It is a 2-mana neutral minion, 1/1 beast that says Battle Cry. Discover a 3-cost card. So, Kevin, what does Discover mean?
So the way Discover works is when you play a Discover card, you're given a pop-up that to anybody who's used the card will look a lot like the Hunter card tracking. It shows you 3 choices for cards that you can choose. The difference being with tracking, it was the next 3 cards that you drew from your deck. With Discover, it doesn't actually affect your deck in any way. So your deck is left totally alone. The Discover property that's listed, so in this case a 3-cost card, comes from any eligible card that you could play on that, given those rules, as that class. So this is a neutral card. It can be played in any class. It's going to draw you a 3-cost minion or spell. Could be a class minion or spell. Could be a neutral minion. Could be a class weapon, technically, in this case, but it has to be a 3-cost card. And the Discover rules are basically done on a per card basis. So anywhere you see Discover, you have to read those rules and then think or look up through all of the different possible options that could come up. Lots of people are doing really good math on this, and you can go look it up elsewhere. There's talk that maybe it's slanted a little bit towards class cards. So class cards might be a touch overrepresented as compared to neutral cards. But mechanically, super cool. These cards are self-replacing. You're going to slap down this 2-mana 1/1, which statistically wouldn't be very good, but you guarantee a 3-cost card that you can curve into, which is an incredibly useful thing to be able to do, and it is also beast typed. So that's also got the opportunity for some cool synergies in Druid, Hunter. It's neat. I think it's a great card, and conceptually, Discover is awesome. JR?
I just wanted to say that you said it was a slight curve towards class cards. Actually, the math out there has it like 400% or higher curve towards class cards right now, which I don't know if that's a bug or if that's the way it's going to be. But there's been a lot of people that have done math, and I wouldn't say that's a 400% is a pretty steep thing that you're going to get a class card out of this Jeweled Scarab. But no, I think it's a pretty interesting card. I don't know. I haven't seen it played yet in Constructed. I haven't seen it on the ladder. I feel like it probably has, once again, like a lot of this set, I feel like it has a lot of sway in Arena. And I think that's probably where you'll see it get picked most of the time.
Yeah. Let's go on to card number 2. Summoning Stone. It is a 5-mana neutral rare minion, 0 attack, 6 health. Reads, whenever you cast a spell, summon a random minion of the same cost. This is getting interesting. Kevin, take us away.
So, I mean, this is basically a minion that creates the effect of one of the recent Tavern Brawls, right? Every time you play a spell, a minion appears that is that same cost. Given that it's a 5-cost minion with only 6 health, you basically have to play at least, I want to say, for this to math out, you have to play at least one spell that gives you a combined total of no less than another 6 points of stat value on the board in order for it to pay itself off, which means you basically need to play a good 2 or 3 cost spell minimum. It has the potential to be incredibly swingy if you don't have a solid board wipe. Like if you're playing a class like Druid, seeing this come down could be incredibly scary because how do you remove it? But it's also pretty late in the game. I also don't know off the top of my head how it interacts with cost reduction. So if you're playing it on the back of having seen Emperor Thaurissan on the board for a couple of turns, or if you've got For example, if you played it in Mage and you've got a Sorcerer's Apprentice down, are you getting the 4 cost of the Fireball or the 3? I don't know. I would have to look it up.
I could be wrong, but I believe the general rule for cards like this so far in the game is that it's the actual card cost, not any modifiers on it. So if it's a 4 cost spell, but you're paying 3 for it, you still get a 4 cost minion. As far as I know.
That would make it maybe powerful, but it's definitely a card that I only see coming down in the late game. You can't play it on curve. It's not vulnerable to a ton of removal, but I mean, if you're playing it on 5, your opponent's going into a turn 5 or 6 themselves, there's going to be probably something on the board already, or there's going to be a way to answer it. The only thing that straight up removes it is Fireball, but there's enough other ways, whether it gets silenced, equality. I would be afraid that you'd have to hold it and bank on it, allowing you to build a board kind of Murloc Knight-esque in the late game. So instead of being a turn 5 play, at best it's a turn 7 or 8 play. That would be my take.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you'll ever end up seeing this card played. To be honest, I don't know. Like, I could see it maybe in Priest. But I'm trying to envision anything else, and I just don't think it's that. I mean, it's an alright concept, but I don't think it's that great of a card. Priest maybe in constructed ranked. If they're trying to do some kind of wombo combo deal with it or something like that. But I feel that there's better cards in Priest to do that with. And this card you should never ever pick in Arena. Ever.
Yeah. It just seems like there's so many better options. Even in Priest, if you were going to do a buff Priest, you'd be way more likely to use something like the new Ginny of Zephyr's card or something. Like, it's just not... It doesn't scream, this has a whole new archetype ready to be played around it. It looks like kind of a fun gimmick card.
Right.
Got it. Cool. Kevin, you want to take us for this next card?
Is he coming through like a crazy robot?
Okay, I wanted to make sure I was. I gotta fix this.
Technical difficulties.
Excuse us while we... Do we have like a Jeopardy theme? Can you sing the Jeopardy theme, JR?
No.
I think you should sing the Jeopardy song.
No.
Check. No!
No. Oh my god.
That's...
I don't know what he did, but... I liked regular John better than Mecha John. What can I say? Regular John? Oh my god. John, stop. No. What on earth could cause that? Don't mind us, guys. We're just waiting for Mecha John to come back.
Hopefully with less mecha.
Hopefully.
What headset do you have, Kevin?
This is the Sennheiser PC350. So it's one of the really nice like Sennheiser over-the-ear sets, but it also has the microphone, which until I got this contraption was super good. Like not great for recording podcasts or streaming, but certainly enough for, telling people not to stand in the fire in raids or whatever. But yeah, right. It's super nice. I love it. There's actually a cool trick I learned online for these. They're like super well built, but they were
check.
Hey, you're better. They were super screwed up because the little bit of like sound attenuation stuff they put into the
Remarkable.
into the can prevented it from having a kind of bass because there's no room for the driver to actually move. So online, they basically tell you, like, take the whole thing apart and drill holes into the back of the physical can so there's somewhere for the air pressure to escape, and then the driver can give like an adequate amount of throw distance, and the bass like quintuples and actually sounds like maybe the best headset that I've ever owned. So
that's
interesting.
Weird.
I have the Astro A50s. I like them okay. They're just not super comfortable.
You sound so much better. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Did you get your times annotated and stuff?
Yeah, it's split on the recording. I just saved it and rebooted the program. So
Cool. All right.
sorry about that, guys.
were
Technical
we?
difficulties. We're going to talk into Reno. So, oops, give me one more second.
We can almost see what he's doing in the reflection off the TV, but not quite.
Get to see my butt. All right, so let's go into the third card from week one, making quite a splash in the Hearthstone scene so far. It is...
I'm Reno Jackson.
That's right. I had to find that just for that part, so I had to plan it out. Reno Jackson, he is a 6 mana neutral legendary, 4 attack, 6 health, reads, Battle Cry, if your deck contains no more than one of any card, fully heal your hero. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, JR. Take us away on this one. You look really excited and happy.
Yeah, when I saw this card, I was pretty excited about because one of the things I really like is if you guys have ever played Magic the Gathering, there is a format called EDH, where it's basically a singleton format. You can only have one of each card in your deck, and then so this would be really awesome in a format like that. The nice thing about this card, though, is it doesn't require you to make a singleton deck. So like Control Warrior, for example, it's pretty popular in because there's very few cards that you have doubles of. And as long as you have drawn those cards, you can use Reno Jackson and get the health benefit. So I think that's pretty cool that it's based on what you have left in your deck and not what was in your deck to begin with. But when I had my dev interview with balance designer Dean Ayala and art director Ben Thompson, one of the things I asked them was what card they were most excited about that could change the meta in this game. And Dean said he thinks it's Reno Jackson. And after seeing it in play this week, I totally agree. People are trying to build decks around this guy, and they're seeing a lot of success with it, I think. It's to go from 5 or 6 health, especially as a Control Warrior where you might have 15, 16 armor left, and at the end of the game jump back up to full health. I mean, any aggro deck you play against, this is basically the aggro killer. If you play it right, it's a pretty great card in my opinion, and it's the one I'm most excited about in this entire set.
Kevin, what about you, man?
Dig the card, dig the concept. Obviously, it's designed to promote sort of Highlander style play, but you can do it with any kind of deck. In a perfect Reno fit deck, you probably don't want to run 14 other duplicate cards or anything, but it's definitely got a place in the meta right out the gate, which I love. The one thing I don't love about it, and I know I'm going to take a lot of flack for this, is I think it's going to promote people running deck trackers. I think it's going to promote people using software and third-party stuff to track which cards they've played out of their decks to see when they can Reno to get the effect. And I don't love that. I don't love that it's going to encourage people to go outside the game to try and solve for that kind of thing, because you should be doing that in your head, and obviously people aren't going to. So that part of me is like, okay, not perfect, but on the whole, it's a super neat concept. I expect to see it, in addition to the obvious fits in like freeze mages and control warriors and stuff like that, probably actually bring some all new stuff to light, because you can imagine there are other cards that there are going to be neat synergies with. Off the top of my head, I think maybe a crazy wall druid that runs one of these, Tree of Life, bunch of stuff to really just say, nope, you never get to move my health down, could be super effective. It's just a question of what it's going to take to stitch that together and test it out. So, I love the card's design. I'm just concerned about what it's going to do to people running the tracking software, because I personally don't love that, and I won't do it.
Kev, Ben Bro did say this last week. I saw this tweet, or this week, that eventually they would like to have a way for there to be an indicator when it's playable for the heal, so that you don't do that. Right now, they're not able to do it because it's going to take a lot of like server pings to make sure that all that stuff isn't changing. So they're more like it's It's possible they just have to figure out the right way to do it. So I'm hoping that you're right, but only for a very short time.
He did clarify that a little bit on, I believe, Reddit, that they are going to do it. He just wasn't sure when it's going to happen, as far as when it's going to get in the game. Because honestly, like it's not going to be that difficult probably to code around it. It's just the fact that it's a different indicator than what they have with anything else in the game, so they have to make a special case for it is all. So it'll just take some time, and then I think we'll see it in the next month or two, some kind of indicator. Because I agree with Kevin that people are going to use deck trackers otherwise. So if they put something in the game that can indicate, okay, you're going to be able to trigger Reno Jackson now, they'll discourage people from using those third-party deck trackers.
And there's really nothing wrong with that. Like, I really don't think there's a problem with the card having an indicator that says, yeah, this is playable now, because it's not like that gives you a whole bunch of information that you couldn't have gotten by just keeping track of, am I out of duplicates? Right. So I don't see a fundamental, like, if it lights up versus not, I don't think that's problematic. So I hope that's where it goes.
Totally. Cool. Let's go ahead and jump into the second batch of peeps here. So we've got 4 more cards. We're going to kind of spitfire them, get through them kind of quick. As always, for you guys, if you haven't listened to our card reviews before, rather than go through every single card, we like to just highlight the really impactful ones. So we've got 4 more cards to talk to you about this week. This is coming from Wing 2, and then next week we'll talk about a couple others from Wing 2, and then Wing 3, because I believe they are going to have like a week break over Thanksgiving. So let's go ahead and talk about these cards here. First, Unearthed Raptor. It is a 3 mana. Oh my gosh, why can't I see Rogue? Thank you.
Rare Rogue minion.
Rare Rogue minion. Sorry, my screen was over. Rare Rogue minion, 3 attack, 4 health, reads Battlecry. Choose a friendly minion, gain a copy of its Death Rattle effect. Kev, take it away.
Awesome. Love it. One of a handful of cards. I wish we were talking about the other ones that go with it, because they're really trying to push for a viable rogue archetype that uses on-curve minions. And this is incredible. Like, you may not recall what a big deal it was when Dark Cultist came out, but it was the first 3/4 for 3 in the game and upended the meta, because all of a sudden you had a card that could not be contested by basically any other 3-drop at the time. Now, we've since seen cards come out that have the 4 attack on 3, but it's not common. It's a tough thing to remove, and 4 takes it out of range of all of the 2-cost removal spells except for Flame Cannon, which is huge. The fact that it also gets to copy Death Rattles is crazy, because obviously if you were forced to play this on curve, you're not copying anything really awesome. You're copying like a Loot Hoarder or something that's probably not super significant. But imagine slapping this down behind Sylvanas or something really powerful in the late game. Cairn even. Like this has the potential to really blow Rogue wide open. And I'm going to say it, I would love to see this played behind a Nubarok. I think that would be hilarious. Just every time, like, bounces back to your hand and leaves a 4/4 behind. That would be insane. There's a lot of very cool potential for some neat synergies that we just haven't seen ever out of Rogue up to this point.
I think it would be cool to see some kind of a Death Rattle Rogue in general, like a bring back Undertaker, except for Rogue.
You're fired. Right? You're done. We're looking for a new podcast co-host. Email wellmet@blizzpro.com. Must have an entire website dedicated to Blizzard games that we can host a podcast on. Thanks.
Good luck with that. I think there's only maybe one other. Maybe 2.
It's a joke, JR.
So was mine. Anyway,
go ahead.
No,
tell us about
I think
Undertaker.
I mean, imagine this: Undertaker, just a good Death Rattle deck with Rogue would be kind of cool. But the thing I'm excited about is the fact that it's a 3-drop that's not SI 7 agent, which isn't really a 3-drop unless you have backstab. So,
cool.
Rogue doesn't really have that early presence. So I think an aggro Rogue deck could work with this card if you go through and find the right cards to use with it, and I think that would be cool, because I think aggro rogue deserves to be a thing again because it hasn't been since early beta.
You think aggro out of this? Really? I totally see it as a control card. I see people copying the death rattles off of their big legendaries. I see this as like a Sylvanas follow-up, a Sneed's follow-up, a Nubarak follow-up.
I see. I mean, I see that too, but I also can see it as an aggro thing where this is your turn 3 drop. Turn 1 Undertaker, turn 2 Haunted Creeper, turn 3 this guy. You can go even further than that and just try to flood the board with Rogue and see what happens.
I think you both could be right, but I think more for like a mid-rangey control is where I think I would kind of see it in. But I don't like to take sides, so I'm going to say you're both wrong. Let's go on to the next one here. Keeper of Uldaman. 4 mana, 3 attack, 4 health, reads, it's a Paladin card, reads, battle cries, set a minion's attack and health to 3. A lot of people are really excited about this card, and Kevin's shaking his head yes.
For sure, this is awesome. As far as like crazy on curve opportunities goes in Paladin, as if there weren't enough already, I will grant you right now that 4 is like the worst, most contested slot on Paladin already. You've got Consecration, True Silver Champion, Blessing of Kings, Murloc Knight. It's a super busy slot, to say nothing of the fact that you've got the possibility that it's competing for that spot with like Shredder and a bunch of other stuff. But the ability to turn a 1/1 token or a attackless minion like a Nerubian Egg into a 3/3 minion on turn 4 is crazy. Basically, what you're saying is, depending on what you're playing this on, you have the ability to put down on turn 4 up to a combined total of like 12 stat points, which is unreal. That's an incredible board swing. And honestly, it's also just incredible removal. If you imagine that you played like your Alder Peacekeeper or something else, and you've used those opportunities up, you've got no equalities, whatever, in the late game, down comes like a Kel'Thuzad, a Dr. Boom, something you need an answer to. Dropping it to 3 health is phenomenal. Like, it's just one more good way for Paladin to answer removal that doesn't rely on the equality, consecrate, wipe, or something like that. It makes every minion removable by True Silver Champion for the cost of 1 hit point. That's crazy. It's a super good card and probably an auto include in basically every non-aggro and possibly even aggro Paladin style from this point out.
JR.
Yeah, it's a better Alder's Peacekeeper, in my opinion, because Alder's Peacekeeper, you usually use it defensively. This thing, you're going to use it offensively or defensively. It's going to give you an option on what you want to do. And it's basically, I mean, for 4 mana, you get basically a 5/6.
Well, and bear in mind, you can't use Alder Peacekeeper on a friendly minion. It specifies enemy minion in the card text.
Right. But that's why I'm saying it's better than Alder's Peacekeeper because you can use it defensively and offensively. If you need to get rid of a minion, this can help you get there. If you need to buff a minion, this will help you get there. For 4 mana, that's pretty awesome.
You guys are so smart. Look at you two, all grown up with your Hearthstone knowledge. Let's talk about this next one. Mounted Raptor, 3 mana, 3/2, Druid Beast, reads Death Rattle, summon a random 1-cost minion. JR.
I think it's an interesting card because it's a little bit weaker piloted Shredder. It's good. It works similar to piloted Shredder, but instead of a 4-drop that you get a 2-drop out of, it's a 3-drop that you get a 1-drop out of. So obviously it's a little bit weaker. But I'm curious to see if in like aggro Druid, if this is going to replace Shade of Naxxramas at all. I'm not sure yet, but I would be curious if it would, because I think it's a 3-drop minion that Druid is missing right now. Because right now they've been playing Shade of Naxxramas, right? So I don't know if it would replace it or not. What do you guys think?
Tough call. Honestly, I don't think it's going to have the same impact that Shredder did, obviously, because Shredder was a neutral. I still don't think that Beast Druid has enough pieces to be viable. But when you look at the options for one drops, there's a lot of potential there. I mean, the average one drop in the game has 3 stat points, which is enough to be significant. And there's tons of like actually fairly powerful cards when you consider that you're getting around a lot of the costs, whether that's you don't have to deal with negative battle cries on things like Injured Kvaldir, or you have the ability to bust out like a Dust Devil with no overload. Like there's lots of little things that could be really powerful. And there's lots of good effects on those one cost minions, right? Things that add health to your other minions, things that have really powerful death rattles, taunt minions, charge minions. Like there's a lot of stuff on one. So, I mean, I could see them trying it. I just don't know, like, if anything, the problem Druid has right now is that it basically avoids playing 3 drops. Between Wild Growth and Aspirant, lots of Druids cut all 3 drops except for a single big game hunter.
And like I said, a lot of them play Shade and Naxxramas. So if there's a 3-drop that they put in the game, that's usually the one that they do. But I think the main thing about Mounted Raptor is that sticky minions are very popular in the meta. If you think about like any main minions that are played, it's usually ones that have some kind of value with being able to stay on the board for a long time or be able to create new minions after they die, such as, you know, the Shredders and things like that, that I think it has potential to be pretty good in Druid. I think whether it's a beast or not doesn't matter at all. I'm looking more for the stickiness of a minion. It has potential.
Yeah, and I mean, it sets up like combo Druid really well because you can use it as an extra body for Savage Roar. That's why Druid runs Shredder. It's why Druid wants anything that sticks around or has stealth. So maybe I don't know compared to what you have for other choices right now. Most Druid wants to go faster than that and uses the extra charge minions like the Druids of the Saber and stuff. Or it goes pure aggro with like Fel Reavers and stuff. Or it goes slower than that and it needs the Ancient of War and more stuff in the 5 through 8 range. So I don't know. Maybe. I would love to see this card played every day. That would be cool.
I agree with what you guys are gonna say. I'm not gonna elaborate too much. There's just 2 things I want to add to this. Number 1, I think this card gets better with the coin. I think being able to play it out on turn 2 when they're throwing out their turn 3, I think is better because it means that it can't trade straight up. And, you know, be 1 for 1. It's going to force some sort of 2 for 1, or even if it's a partial, you know, 1.5 for 1 or whatever. Also, turn 1, you know, innervating it out might not be too bad as well. On like a vanilla turn 3 tempo play, I think it's awful. It loses to most, you know, 3 drops, as far as most 3 drops can take care of it, have enough health to deal with that and whatever pops out. So, I'm lukewarm on it, but I think if you can get it consistent enough where you're getting it out on turn 1 and turn 2 and not turn 3, I think it could be a good deck or a good card.
The one thing I will say is there are no 1-drops with big significant drawbacks the way there are with 2-drops. Like when you play Shredder, it's like maybe I get Doomsayer or Lorewalker Cho or an Aspirant when I don't want that Death Rattle. There's really nothing on 1 that you get punished by, is there? Like, there's no 1-drop where you're like, oh, I really can't afford to have that come out of my Mounted Raptor.
Mini Millhouse Mana Storm. Just kidding. That doesn't exist, and that doesn't work that way. Anyways, yep, that's Mounted Raptor. Let's talk about this last card here before we wrap up. Bran Bronzebeard. He's a 3-mana, 2-attack, 4 health legendary. Reads, your battle cries trigger twice. Kev, you like this card?
I do. I think it's cool. I've been asking for this card since we saw Baron Rivendare come out in Curse of Naxxramas, and I'm surprised it took them this long because it was such an obvious opportunity. It may not actually be as effective because there's a lot of battle cries where you don't get the duplicate effect really significantly, but there's enough stuff in the game that now synergizes with battle cry specifically that I think there's some neat opportunities here. There's definitely potential for somebody to put together a really powerful battle cry driven deck and take advantage of all the other battle cry synergies. And I don't know what class it would be in. I haven't given enough thought to how it would work, but there's just there's lots there. And I think you're going to see people have to tech to deal with that possibility down the road, because he's also cheap, right? Like 3 mana means you could play him and then throw out Dr. Boom and get 4 boom bots, right? Like there's lots of stuff that you can get down alongside him if you have to play him in the late games. So I see a lot of potential there personally.
Cool. What about you, JR?
I think it's pretty cool. My biggest fear is some of the battle cries that have target effects. I'm not sure if this would allow you to select a new target. I doubt it, since Hearthstone doesn't normally play that way. So any battle cry that you have that, like, for example, Keeper of Voldemort, you're going to pop it on one of your dudes, and then, well, he's still a 3/3 twice. So he's going to make him a 3/3 again. I would like to see if they did something like this to allow you to at least be able to select different targets, but I doubt that's going to be the case.
All right.
So it makes it a little bit weaker because of that, because I feel like there's a lot of battle cries where you can kind of do the whole select thing, and
Sure.
I don't know. I think it would be a lot stronger if it allowed you to do that.
Definitely depends on how it plays out. The one thing that I think is really cool about the cards that we've talked about, especially these last 4, you'll notice that Blizzard's really focusing on strong cards in the 3 slot. Like, these are 3 really potentially viable cards at the 3 slot. So that's exciting to see, because we weren't seeing that for a long time.
It's a big change, and despite that, like, most of these are not cards that are going to make the game faster, which is one of the big fears that we've had, is that we might see cards that elevate the speed at which games can end. Most of these cards, like, they trade really efficiently, they're very powerful, they're great cards, sometimes on curve or sometimes as late game combos, but none of them are going to help someone end a game by turn 7, right? Like, there's nothing here that adds to the pace of an already very quick game.
Totally. Anything you guys want to add to these last 7 cards we talked about here?
No, all the good ones are in the back half, and we don't get to talk about them today.
True. Don't worry, we're going to get to talk about them really soon. Hope you guys enjoyed our preliminary first week of League of Explorers card reviews. Yeah, we always like doing these things. We know you guys like hearing us talk about them, so hopefully it was really good for you. You guys feel good about this? Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead then and jump into mail.
We've got mail.
We don't. Send us your emails.
We don't have any mail.
Send us your emails, guys. Come on. wellmet@blizzpro.com. We love your emails. We love to talk about them on the show, and they add a lot. So please go ahead and do that.
Everybody was busy with BlizzCon.
It's true.
That's why.
We're going to go ahead and wrap it up then for the evening. We actually did pretty good on time, guys. I'm proud of you. You guys were saying 2.5 to 3 hours, and I'm like, we're going to keep it to an hour and a half. We did it. So good job. Well, let's go ahead and jump through our Patreon. Kev?
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited that the Patreon is something that you guys continue to support. We're just in the process of sending out our backer rewards for October. They're a little late, and we apologize for that, but everybody was away at BlizzCon. I hope to have the rest of those messages out to everybody here in the next couple of days if things go to plan. If you haven't already, please feel free to check it out. It's at patreon.com/wellmetpodcast. We're building up towards our $350 goal, which is to bring in voice talent to record brand new intro and outro for the show, new host introductions, just add some cool new bumpers and flavor to the show, because you guys told us that that was something you really enjoyed when we first launched the show back in, oh my god, was that like February? It's been a long time. Holy wow. There are no new patrons for us to shout out this week, but we're super excited. Every new patron we make sure to mention at the end of the show. Get in there, join us, show us that you love what we're doing, and we'll work even harder to make the show bigger and better for you in the weeks to come.
I still want to get to the $500 one, because I want to do a bonus episode every week or every month.
That would be so cool, and we would be able to put out a 5th episode, or in some cases 6th episode every month, with some fun, off-the-wall, new content, stuff we're not doing, all new segments that we aren't even really able to touch on in the show right now, because, to John's point, it's already jam-packed. He won't let us do a 2.5-hour special, so yeah, that's why we got to make it to that $500 mark.
I'm the
John's
bad guy.
mean, so we need to get there.
I like to crack the whip, you know?
It's like Harrison Jones.
True. I have my whip sound, but it's on my other soundboard, so we'll have to settle for this one.
Remarkable.
Anyways, Yeah, let's jump into iTunes reviews. JR?
I don't believe we had any new iTunes reviews this week. However, if you would like to leave a review, definitely hop on there. It helps us out a ton. It helps us get seen by more people. And honestly, it's like we talked about Patreon money earlier, but iTunes reviews are worth more to us than that because it helps us get listened by more people and be able to meet even more people, which I like to do. So I know these guys do too. Hopefully, we'll see a lot more new people at BlizzCon next year.
Totally.
Thanks to you guys with the iTunes reviews.
Let's go ahead and jump into the shout-outs. Okay, shout-outs. What about you, Kevin? What are you shouting out this week?
Well, my big project is Legacy of the Void right now. Just came out this week. I put in a pre-order that never showed up, so I caved and went and bought a second copy of the collector's edition on Friday. I've been playing basically nonstop in preparation to release my first ever reviews as a writer. I'm going to be putting out 2 reviews of Legacy of the Void, one that's multiplayer specific and one that's kind of a broader total game package review. So I got to just crank out the hours because I can't feel good about that till I put at least 20-30 hours into the game. So I'll be crushing Red Bulls and playing more StarCraft tonight. If you guys want to see that, follow me on Twitter at Lack of Realism. I'll be posting all my reviews and all the other stuff that's coming out of that as soon as it goes live. Tons of cool stuff coming, and I would love to share it with you and get your feedback.
What about you, JR?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all the people that were at BlizzCon that came by and met us. Thank you so much. It was an awesome experience. I'd like to thank all of the BlizzPro team that put in the work with BlizzCon, those that went to BlizzCon, and those that stayed home. You guys put out a ton of content for us this last week, and I'm so happy I get to work with not only these 2 guys, but everybody else on the BlizzPro team. Everybody on that team is so great and so awesome. I'm so like honored to be a part of this group. Last thing, also, I'm running since Extra Life was during BlizzCon this year, I didn't get to do my 24-hour gaming marathon, so I'm doing it starting on November 26th. It'll be here on twitch.tv/BlizzPro. I'm still trying to figure out when you guys are doing the Payload podcast, because I might be doing it after that, might be doing it before, I don't know yet. So I'll have the time later on, but so come join me as we help raise money for Children's Hospital here in Kansas City, and I'll probably be playing a lot of Hearthstone. Hopefully I'm in the Overwatch beta by then, maybe, please Blizzard, Overwatch beta, and maybe some Fallout 4. So come join me, it'll be fun. 24 hours, you get to watch me fall asleep on my keyboard, and we'll raise some money for the children. It'll be awesome.
Awesome. As for me, same stuff, same things going on. Shout out to everybody we got to meet at BlizzCon and everyone I got to hang out with. That was a blast. Katie and I had so much fun. Small shameless plug, if you guys are getting into Overwatch, you should come hang out for the Payload podcast Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Kevin, Jimmy, and I are hanging out talking about everything Overwatch, and there's a lot of cool stuff that happened over at BlizzCon. Let's go ahead and close out the show, though. So first, huge thanks to Jake Butineau for our awesome music. You can find out more at jakebutineau.ca. Also, big thanks to our buddy Dread Scythe, who does all of our layouts and vectors and logos and stuff. We look sexy because of that guy. So huge thanks. Con Before the Storm peeps, Row and crew, like, you guys were awesome in making it happen for us in the show. Thank you again so much. Send us your emails to wellmet@blizzpro.com. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/wellmetpodcast. Send us your tweets at wellmetpodcast. And of course, leave us your reviews on iTunes, Stitcher, and everything else. Guys, this has been episode 35. We will see you next week.
You can find John on Twitter at KickedTripod and on Twitch at twitch.tv/KickedTripod. You can find JR on Twitter at Eldorian and on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. And you can find Kevin on Twitter at Lack of Realism and on Twitch at twitch.tv/OdinTV. BlizzPro.com. Beyond Noob.